Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
The Steve Austin Show is brought to you free today by our friends at BetOnline. Get in the mix at betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
Check it out. I'm really excited to be back in the studio today because you guys have heard about all the hassles and horror shit I had trying to do this damn show from Mexico with no technology skills. So now that I'm back in the studio, I got a little quality time and I ain't got to worry about pushing buttons and fucking a bunch of shit up. I'm excited to talk to my old buddy Kevin Nash. Now, I first met Kevin at Center Stage in downtown Atlanta back in the days. Hell, it might have been 91. And when I first saw this sumbitch at 6'10" and 350 pounds, the first thought in my head was not like, hey, I bet this is going to be one funny motherfucker. It wasn't that. Because back in the day, Kevin kind of had that 1,000-yard stare going, and he had the shoulders that looked like gigantic cantaloupes and 23-inch guns. And when you see a pile of human monstrosity like that, the last thing you think is, this is going to be a funny motherfucker. You think, I don't want to fuck with this crazy son of a bitch. So anyway, I went over and shook hands, and we started talking, and then we started laughing like a sumbitch and pretty much became friends right from the start. So check it out. Here's Kevin's career. Between WWE, WCW, and TNA, Kevin has won a total of 21 championships. He is a 6-time world champion, a 5-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, and 1-time WWF Champion. Although he has only had one reign as WWF Champion, Kevin is recognized by WWE as the longest reigning WWF Champion of the 90s and the 10th longest reigning of all time, having held the title for 358 days. He has achieved notable success in the tag team division as well, being a 12-time World Tag Team Champion, a 9-time WCW World Tag Team Champion, a 2-time WWF World Tag Team Champion, and 1-time TNA World Tag Team Champion. Let me take a fucking break. He is also a 1-time WWF Intercontinental Champion and a 2-time TNA Legends Champion. In addition to championships, he won the 1998 WCW World War III. Nash was a member of the Clique. We're going to talk about the Clique real quick, a group which included Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman. He's also one of the 3 founding members of the New World Order, which we're damn sure going to talk about along with Hulk Hogan and Scott Hall. Without any further ado, Kevin, welcome to the Steve Austin Show, brother. How are you?
Hey, welcome home.
Goddamn, I'm glad to be home. I need to go take a drink of water, a walk, and a piss after reading all your accolades.
I tell you, man, that's what happens when you had the pencil half your career.
Hey, you'll book yourself into a hell of a situation. Hey, man, we shot the shit a couple of days ago, and I've been wanting to have you on the show ever since I started this thing, and we're still fresh, up and running, and all that other horse shit, but I want to talk about a bunch of shit that happened in the business, but right now, let's talk about the here and now. How are you feeling? What are you up to? How's the carcass holding up?
I feel rotten. I mean, I'm beat up to shit, but...
Well, don't beat around the bush. How are you really feeling? God damn.
I want to get some of that fucking testosterone replacement shit. I'll be happy with my shit at half mast.
Are you feeling rough? Talk to me.
Well, sooner or later I'll die and it'll be over with. But I guess
that's my buddy Kevin Nash. Always looking at the glass like it's half full. That's always a solution to every problem. So you're not feeling good. You're pissed off. You're moving a little sluggish this morning. I'm full of goddamn energy. How's the wheels? You goddamn got that big-ass fucking upper body. Your wheels got so many damn leg surgeries. How's the wheels coming on?
Good. Just train high volume now.
Backing off on the poundage, trying to keep those joints good?
Yeah, I mean, my last workout, I ended up 14 plates on the leg press for 20 reps.
And let me guess, you did 14 wheels on the leg press and your shoulders grew.
My shoulders grow no matter what.
I know. You're the goddamn only person on earth that go work legs and get his shoulders to grow. Fancy that. I can fucking look at a goddamn squat bar and my legs would get big, but my shoulders ain't worth a flying shit.
The beauty of genetics.
Yeah. You know, Rick Rude always had that badass physique, great, capped off deltoids, jacks, the whole 9 yards. But his wheels wasn't up to snuff. But he used to always tell me as we rode down the road, he'd go, "For fuck's sake, Steve, it's an upper body business." And he was right.
Damn right.
Well, you had some bone chips removed out of your elbows. How's that going for you?
That made a difference. That was kind of a constant, like a 2-year pain that was alleviated by finally a surgeon, getting in there and cleaning that out. I think my rotator cuffs got some tears in it.
But here's the bottom line for all guys. As you come out of the racket that we come out of, you beat to shreds, you're happy about it, you had a great run. Does your dick still get hard?
Oh, yeah.
Well, see, you got that going for you. Then everything else just kind of falls in line after that, because when that shit is over, that's kind of when, things ain't so fucking great.
Shit, when that's over, it's time to put a bullet in your head.
Easy. We can talk about that later as well. Hey, you know what? I want to take these, before you and me take a trip down memory lane, I want to go back, because I was reading about you before we did this interview, and I've known your ass for a long-ass time. We met over at Center Stage. But before you got into business, you were in college. You were at the University of Tennessee. And you, if my sources are correct, you were majoring in psychology and minoring in educational philosophy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You're known as being one of the smarter guys that's ever been in the business. I was reading an article about you several months ago, and those motherfuckers that wrote that thing said you had an IQ of $160. Was that a work or was that a shoot?
I mean, I've actually had it tested at 140, 146.
Pretty goddamn smart. So let me go back to your majoring in psychology and minoring in educational philosophy. What the fuck were you going to do with that? Because did you get a degree?
No.
Okay.
I got thrown out of school.
I want to get to that.
I was on track.
Okay, but majoring in psychology, what were your goals back then? At that time, what were you going to do with your life?
I had no idea. I wanted to play basketball. That was it.
But how'd you pick the psychology thing? It could have been anything, but why psychology?
I was smart enough to be able to get a syllabus and grab a textbook, and then the lectures were on microfilm back then, so it was pretty much I could pretty much not go to class and get a high C, which kept me eligible to play on the basketball team. So it was the easiest, the easiest path to, path of least resistance to stay eligible, get good enough grades to, not have anybody climbing up my ass and, not have me, in extra tutors and going to study halls and all that shit. So it was just easy. It was just easy for me.
So let's talk about basketball for a second. How tall are you right now?
God, Steve, right now I'm probably barefoot, maybe 6'9.5".
6'9.5", 7'8" with the fro. When you were in high school, when you graduated from high school, how tall were you then?
About 6'11.25".
Gravity's a motherfucker, ain't it? So you're 6'11.25". When you came out of high school, are you widely recruited? Could you have gone anywhere in the United States you wanted to go? Because you ended up going to Tennessee.
Yeah, I could have went anywhere. I could have went, anywhere on the West Coast. I could have went anywhere in the ACC. I could have went to any Big Ten school. I had 200-some offers.
Well, god dang, dude. With that being said, how do you end up going to the University of Tennessee? You're a cat out of Michigan, Detroit. What was it about Tennessee that drew you to that program?
I wanted to get out of the state of Michigan.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to go someplace. I wanted to go as far away from the snow as I could, but at the same time, I still wanted my mom,
right?
To be able to see me. And Knoxville's about 500 miles, which is about as far as somebody can possibly make a trip on a weekend. Come on, leave Friday and then go back after the game on Saturday. That was kind of like the radius we were looking at, and I went down there. And at the time, there were no pro sports in Tennessee. the Titans didn't exist.
Right.
There were no. So when you played for the University of Tennessee, you pretty much played for the pro team in Tennessee.
Celebrity status.
Yes. So you immediately, if you were, in my case, come basketball season, you were one of the few white boys that got any playing time. You were kind of big man on campus, so it was kind of, shooting ducks in a barrel kind of situation. So,
well, let's talk about your basketball game. I mean, were you tough in the paint? Were you a rebounding cat? What was your game? Post up?
Yeah, I was. I knew going in that they had plenty of offense. I knew they had, they had Reggie Johnson, who was an all-SEC guy. He was a 6'10" offensive machine. Later on, we got Dell Ellis that played, for 100 years in the NBA. Was one of the greatest three-point shooters in the NBA history. So, I knew I was going to go in and just kind of play, do the dirty stuff, rebound, play defense. I always covered the toughest, the toughest inside guy they had offensively. I covered McHale. I played against a lot of good guys back in the day.
Well, tell me about your career. Did you play 3 or 4 seasons there?
3.
Okay, 3. You've got an altercation with the coach. How does this break down? What was the situation at hand?
We're playing Kentucky at Kentucky, and that was our Tennessee's big rival.
Gotcha.
And late in the first half, one of our guys got fouled. We went up to the foul line, and back then we had 2 referees, so you didn't have that third referee. So when a referee was handing the guy the ball, and the other referee walked by us to our right-hand side as we were getting set up on the side, for free throw. Once you saw the one referee, his attention go to hand the guy the ball, and the other guy's back was to you, if you were the cheap shot guy, which I was, and a lot of guys were, and the guy next to me was a guy named LeVon Williams, I think was his name. I think it was a Kentucky kid, came out of Denver, about 6'8", 6'7" guy, but good, pretty good body on him, and he was just the same as me, kind of a hatchet guy. And he just, I was starting to have a good game, and then up in Knoxville, I'd scored 10 points like in a row on him. Ended up turning the game around, so they were going to get me out. So the guy elbowed me in the side of the head. I fired back at him, and it kind of had a bench clearing incident. They threw me out of the game. So, my coach, being the genius he was, instead of just leaving me in the locker room, he brings me back for the second half, sits me at the end of the bench, where everybody can give me hell. They're throwing oranges at me, which was a common thing because we were the big orange. They throw oranges at us. So, I'm pissed off. I'm sitting there. I can't do anything. We end up losing. We're going back down the locker room, and he comes up to me and gets in my face and says, you happy now, motherfucker? You hothead. You cost us a game. And I pushed him aside and walked in the locker room. So we got in the locker room. I was sitting down. I was undoing my shoes. He stood right over me and, started shit back up with me, and he just kept saying, you want to hit somebody, hit me. You want to hit you so tough, you want to hit somebody, hit me. And I just stood up, and I fucking just open hand smacked him right in the fucking head. And
so what'd he do? Did he sell it?
He went down like a bitch. The fucking team looked at me like, what the fuck?
Did he get back up? Did he try to come at you? Had he had enough? What happened?
No, he knew. He knew.
He fucked up. Don't get up.
Right then, he said that he brought the Detroit out of that boy. No, I thought he was typical for those guys. But he was a Bobby Knight disciple.
Gotcha.
He was that guy.
So then you get kicked off the team immediately?
No, he got to the point. See, I've always at least had some street smarts. So I immediately got an attorney in town, and I figured, because they told me, he said, you're off the team, and, whatever. I said, whatever. So we went back to Knoxville that night on a charter. The press had already got a hold of it, because when I pushed, I left the locker room, because my girlfriend was a cheerleader at the time, and I left the locker room to go, go grab her and tell her what was up, and when I pushed the locker room door, like I pushed like 20 reporters away from them. They were all sticking with their ear up against the door, so they heard everything. So it was immediately out. So University of Tennessee knew they had a PR nightmare on their hands because people had seen him grab me in the hallway. On Sunday, I got a call. We met over in the athletic department, athletic director's office. You know, and they said, we got to put this thing at rest. And so me and the coach came on TV and had a press conference and basically said it was just, a
misunderstanding
between two, the old heated exchange between two competitive people.
Heated exchange.
But nothing happened,
So when are you off the team?
No, I finished the season, and we played Florida at home the next game, and I started because any change in the lineup would have meant that I was being punished.
So the season's over. You decide not to come back for the fourth season?
No, it was the spring semester, and we had an RA on our floor that was just an asshole, and he came down and said he smelled weed in my room, and I wasn't doing anything.
Not you.
And he said he wanted to search my room.
Yep.
I said no. He started to come in my room, and I fucking doubled him over with a gut shot and threw him out in the hallway. Well, he went and pressed charges with campus police, and they came, and they were acting like they were going to arrest me, and I told them I didn't put my hands on him. I said, they ain't got a mark on him. So they just pushed him out of my room. I said, you ain't got the right to come in my room.
Patented shot to the drum, no mark, street smart kid.
Nothing.
So then they bounce you out. What happened?
So now it's like I'm on like double secret probation.
Yep.
So I've got a black studies class at like 6:00 at night on like Tuesday, Thursdays, and I'm walking across the middle of campus and I'm smoking a joint, and this girl like comes and stands like dead in front of my my path.
Yeah.
And just stands there, and I try to walk around her, and she takes it. She says, "What is that?" And I said, "What is it?" I said, "You've never seen a joint before?" She said, "I thought so." I said, "What the fuck ever?" And just kept walking by and took a couple more hits, so I could make it through class and put her out for the walk home. So
she narked on you.
Just nothing.
So then they kicked you out.
Yeah. they built their case up, and that was just strong.
So that was it. You're out of school on your ass, and then you end up in the European League. Long story short, how was the European League?
Back then, it was like, I equated it to playing like mid-level.
Any dough?
Mid-level college.
Any dough?
Two-ish.
Gotcha.
About $200,000.
Oh, that's good money. Shit, especially back in the day. So you get out of the European League, and you go to the Army, and you get a NATO job.
Yeah.
Before you tell me about the NATO job, I got to take a quick break and take care of some business. Hang in there, Kevin.
All right, buddy.
Though we're apart these days, we're sharing more. And Geico would just like to say thanks. Thanks for sharing your savage dance moves. Thanks for sharing your DIY haircut fails. Thanks for sharing your inner lip sync star. Now it's Geico's turn to share too with the Geico Give Back, a 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies for current and new customers. And because Geico's committed for the long haul, the 15% credit lasts your full policy term. Visit geico.com/giveback for info and eligibility. Hey, check it out. I just received some new sunglasses from Shady Rays for the summer. They were nice enough to send me a few pair of their X series, and I got to say they fit great and look cool. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company, so not some big corporation that overcharges for shades. And everyone knows sunglasses are way overpriced. Shady Rays is out to do it differently with premium polarized shades built for the outdoors and backed for life. The craziest thing about Shady Rays is their warranty. This is one of the best warranties in all of eyewear. Shady Rays will send replacements if shades are lost or broken for any reason. It don't matter what happens. Dropped in the ocean, lake, anything. They'll replace them. Try that with your high-priced shades and see if they'll help you. Even with that strong of a warranty, they still manage to make quality that I can tell you, holding in my hand, seems just as good as any expensive pair that I have ever worn. polarized lenses that look perfectly clear, and most Shady Rays are $48. Shady Rays also provide 10 meals to fight hunger in America with every order placed and have provided over 10 million meals to date. They stand behind their product and told our team that if anyone has a problem, they throw profit out the window and do what it takes to get it right. Free returns and exchanges. You either love the shades or Shady Rays will pay to ship them back. That's it. Exclusively for the Steve Austin Show listeners, they gave us the best deal they have to offer. This is a Black Friday level deal. Use code STEVE for 50% off 2 or more pairs at ShadyRays.com. Buy one, get one free. You can get 2 pairs of shades for $48. Redeem only at ShadyRays.com, where you can find all their newest and best shades.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Coming back in with Kevin Nash, and he just got a job with NATO. No, just enlisted in the Army and is with NATO. What in the hell were you doing in NATO?
My MOS was 95 Bravo, which is a military policeman. And back then, the number one threat to West Germany was a Soviet attack, would be a Soviet mechanized attack. I mean, that's how back then everything was conventional, and they would have to because we didn't have the tanks or anything to stop that kind of movement. We would, our satellite systems would pick up just, if nothing else, the heat signature of that much armor moving. And we would have, we had, probably 12 to 18 hours to get into position, because they had to go through, there was just only a couple of gaps, in the region there that they could bring it through, and one of them was the Fulda Gap. If anybody, you can just Google Fulda Gap, and it will, you read the whole history on how we, basically were guided to protect that. That was from the 42nd Field Artillery back then, that was like our objective, which I was assigned to. And we would just meet them with everything we had, basically. My job was basically to be at a NATO site and to guard the weapons. So that's what I did for 3 years.
So your time is up. You head back to Detroit. You get a job on the assembly line at Ford. What exactly were you doing?
Putting tires on the right side.
Putting tires on the right side. Now, I know you're a big fan of the Ford Bronco. Both of us have Broncos. Now, is your allegiance or your loyalty to the Blue Oval because you worked there, or you just dig the Bronco?
Well, my dad worked there.
Gotcha.
And my stepdad worked there. I mean, we've all, I pretty much, my entire life was fed by that Blue Oval. So it's just, we're kind of a Ford family.
So you're at the assembly plant, and as I'm reading your wiki page, you end up down in Atlanta bouncing out a titty club. What just gets in your head and says, hey, man, fuck working on the assembly line, I'm heading down to Atlanta? What was the transition? What were you thinking?
Well, what happened was when I was over in Europe, I blew my knee out. I mean, I fucked it up bad. I did an ACL, PCL, MCL. So I had one operation over there and came back and had another operation. But then all of a sudden it was just like the European team, knowing I wasn't going to come back, just they weren't going to pay for anything else. And I wasn't fixed yet. So I had to get on the assembly line and work, I forget what it was, but I think it was 120 or 180 days, whatever it was, to get full insurance. Long story short, I had one guy that I knew I could trust, and I was over by the car's hook on a chain, and I was over messing with this chain, and they started the line back up at lunch, and I acted like I kind of got caught in it and pulled my leg, but it didn't. But I took a bump, and my buddy said, I saw the whole thing, and so I went ahead and milked the system. Real proud of it, and got some free medical and a little workman's comp for my anguish. So while I was rehabbing my knee, a buddy of mine said, hey, they got a place down on Michigan Avenue called BT's looking for a bouncer. Working at a strip club there, met some guys from Atlanta that were kind of shifty guys, but they had invited me to come down to work for them down in Atlanta. Ended up that they were being watched by the FBI. Long story short, the FBI raided our office complex, arresting everybody in the process, including myself. They held everybody because they didn't have the brains of the operation. And I was looking at like 5 or 6 counts of wire fraud, 6 or 7 counts of mail fraud. Each one of those was like a 7-year sentence. So it looked like I was going to go down the tubes, but I just kept my mouth shut. I just acted like I didn't know anything. And I just kept telling them that I was muscle. The reason I was there was they just needed muscle. So finally, I got out of that. They told me they were going to release me. They released me, and they told me the guy that had given me my second summons, a guy named Peter Both, was going to be waiting for me at the end of the steps of this courthouse. I came down, and he was standing there, and he took me in his car over to the Cheetah, and they were looking for a floor manager at the strip club. And I walked in the door, and lo and behold, that was my career for the next, 3 years.
Didn't you get noticed there by somebody that said, hey, it's a big son of a bitch, you ought to get into the business of pro wrestling? What was your introduction into the business? Yeah, the boys would, because it was just, Center Stage was just, maybe 3 miles from there. And Wyndham, I think, was the first one to talk to me. And then I was training at Coffee's Gym in Marietta on Franklin Road, and the Steiners, both Robbie and Scotty, trained there. And Scotty was just kind of breaking in with Robbie, and it was back when it was the NWA. Yeah. So they were my buddies, and we were all Michigan guys, and they were trying to push me in, and I ended up going down to Jody Hamilton's school. And when Jody had that school, was that Power Plant, or was it just Jody's wrestling school? No, it was just Jody's. Jody's school was in Lovejoy, Georgia. On one half of it was Jody's school. On the other half, this Quonset hut was a place that sold carpet remnants. What was your impression of Jody? I mean, a lot of people, Jody was one half of the Assassins, and Jody and his partner were a hell of a damn tag team, drew a lot of money wherever they went, and Jody was gold on a microphone, one of the most menacing, articulate promos with a message of destruction that would draw money that anybody ever heard. So what was your first impression when you met Jody? He was, Jody was big. By the time I met him, he was always a big man. But I mean, Jody was heavy. But the thing that amazed me was like he'd get in the ring and he'd run the ropes. I mean, he could still, and he was older, and he was probably 350, but he could motor still. He could still move. What was it? What was the focus of his teaching with you? Was it more bumps? I'm sure he wasn't teaching you at your size chain wrestling. So what was the bulk of his training as it pertained to your structure and who you were? He based everything, how it was so different back then. Right. You can attest to this that they didn't smarten you up for a long time. No, the business was still real. Yeah, I mean, the first thing they did was, first day you pay your $1,500, you go down there, you do 500 Hindus, 500 step-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, and run the ropes, and then get somebody in there that's a shooter, and they sugar you. Pay the dues, go through the routine, learn respect. And then there's 8 guys that show up on a Saturday, do that, and then they say, we'll see you guys on Monday. Well, come Monday, the only asshole that walks back in there is me. The rest of them said, fuck this. I went to a football game that Sunday with my wife and couldn't even get to my seat. I could, up and down the stairs at the Falcons game. I couldn't even walk. But I showed up Monday, and Jody wasn't even there. One of the other guys was there, and the guy sitting there drinking a beer. And I said, I am here for my training. There's nobody in the facility. So he gets on the phone and basically says, Jody, that big fucker came back. And he's like, all right. So, they brought Dwayne Bruce came down, and Jody came down, and, we went through some stuff, and they just, the first thing was just lockup. We had lockups for, that day. That's all we did was lockups. And, Dwayne Bruce was probably 5'6", 5'7". So, right. You imagine that was, a good learning session, locking up with a 7-footer.
So finally, Jody got out there and worked with me, and Jody and lockups were so different back then because they were so like this lockup part was so snug, and then you just immediately went to that, work. But it was, that was the first thing they taught you, so it was almost like you thought in your mind, like, oh, this is a shoot.
Damn right. I mean, a lockup is the beginning of any match, and it's one of the most important parts of any match. And, truth be known, and anybody that's in the ring, you set a pace. I mean, you set a tone with that lockup. Hey, you out there to do business?
Absolutely.
Snap in here, motherfucker. Or is it going to be some lackadaisical, laissez-faire horse shit? A shitty lockup, is a great start to a shitty match.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, and I'll watch guys. It's every. The thing that I learned from Jody was that you're not going to have to do as much as anybody else. B, when you do something, make sure it looks good. It's just like lock up, grab that head. And I mean, it was such a different business.
Whatever you do, make look good. You ain't got to do a whole lot of anything, but what you do make look good. So you're in there with Jody, you're locking up. Okay. How long were you in the school before you had your first match? I want to jump into your WCW career and get moving here.
First match was probably 8 months, and it was live on the Clash of Champions. It was me and my partner Corey Pendarvis versus Brad Armstrong and Tim Horner.
Okay, so you got that first match, and what did you wrestle that first match under?
I was Master Blaster Steel. I had a fuchsia mohawk.
Well, let's talk about Master Blaster Steel. What was the mindset on creating that character? Did someone just say, hey, Kevin, you're a big motherfucker, let's put a mohawk on you and call you Master Blaster Steel? Did you go home and think, hey, man, let me put this behind this thing, here's the look? How did that all evolve?
Well, the thing was Ole was the booker at the time, and Ole was the one I had the meeting with. And I went to the Cobb County Civic Center and met him. And he, looked at me, and my hair was long. I had long brown hair, and had that like the Magnum PI mustache. And he said, I'm thinking about a mohawk. And I'm thinking, and then they offered me, $75,000 for my contract. And I was thinking, find someone to cut my hair off and take a pay cut to go do this shit. And I'm like, I said, I wasn't too sure about doing it. And then I talked to my wife. She said, it's time for you to get out of that strip club, because we had some problems there.
Yeah.
Sooner or later you're gonna get shot or stabbed or something in one of those deals. So my wife wanted me to get out of that shit, not knowing that I'd be leaving one pirate ship to get on a fucking worse one. So I just I said fuck it and went and got my hair done. And I was supposed to look like the dude from the Mad Max movie that had the motorcycle, that had the red mohawk. He had the little bitch on the back.
Yeah, I had the fucking open ass cheeks on the back of his leather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
that.
Yeah,
I was supposed to look like that guy. That
was
the look they were looking for. So they wanted me to mimic that look. So that's kind of where that whole, thing came from. And, I went and had it done and, came home and, my wife looked at me like, what the fuck? And once again, like looking back at it, just a rib. Take a decent-looking guy and make him look like a fucking asshole.
How long were you the Master Blaster before they changed you up and switched you into the Oz gimmick?
We had the Clash of Champions, and then we went on the road. And I was on the road for 5 days, came back, and the last day there we were supposed to wrestle in Hammond, Indiana. And I got up that morning, the guy that was my tag team partner just took off, went home.
He wigged out.
Just couldn't do it. So now I go to Hammond and I drive with Dutch and Sid, and I got no partner. So I looked there, and Grizz opening match was Al Green versus somebody. I don't know who it was. And Al Green, they walked over and grabbed Al and said, "You're gonna wrestle with this kid in the tag, this guy." So we shook hands and went out there, and Al was a much better hand than the guy that was that I had.
Right.
Al had been around a couple of years, so at least I had. So the other guy was just fucking drizzling shits. I mean, they told me when they brought him in that this guy would be able to work the match, and you just come in on the heat until you weren't so green. Well, hell, we get down the first night and to go over the match with Armstrong and Horner, and Jody says take an arm, and the guy, my partner, didn't even know how to take an arm. And I'm like, Jesus, man, we're fucked. So push forward. Me and Al, I think we got a win at Halloween Havoc against, I forget what they were called, but it was Armstrong and Smothers. I think they were the Southern Boys or something like that.
Yeah, Southern Boys, something like that.
Yeah, Southern Boys. So we got a win. We got a win over them in Chicago at Halloween Havoc. So we were kind of getting a little bit of a push. So we went in Christmas time and had a 2-segment match at center stage with the Steiners, and they were going to beat Al in the second segment with the bulldog off the top with Robbie's finish. And we're in the room, and Al says, I think it's a little too soon to be beating us. And they asked me to excuse myself, and I left. And about 2 minutes later, Al came out and was shaking his head and went into the room and grabbed his bag, and he was gone. I said, fuck.
So you're all by yourself again.
Yeah, watch him go over and fucking erase the match to the fucking board. And I said, God damn. Here I am with a fucking mohawk. He looked at me and fucking said, grow your shit out.
So I'm sensing we got I'm sensing we have a repackage here with Oz, and before we get to that, I'm going to take care of a little bit more business. Support for the Steve Austin Show comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home today is so much more than it was yesterday, but at Rocket Mortgage, home is still all about you. During these challenging times, the top priority at Rocket Mortgage is the health and safety of the communities they serve. If you need mortgage assistance, their team is available 24/7 to answer questions and offer solutions. Whether that means saving money on your mortgage or finding a new way to navigate payments. From their home to yours, the team at Rocket Mortgage is with you. Visit rocketmortgage.com/Austin to learn more. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. You want to spend less time working on your lawn and more time sitting on your lawn with an ice cold one? Well, here you go. Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and feeds to build thick green lawns. With Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action, you can finally get the lawn you've always dreamt of. When you feed with Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action multiple times throughout the year, your grass will be greener, stronger, and more resilient. Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action will give your yard the nourishment it needs to help your weak, thin lawn recover. Also, Scott's no-quibble money-back guarantee states, if you're not satisfied, you get your money back. Simple as that. Slam down a bag today. This is the Scott's Yard. All right, coming back in, talking to Kevin Nash about the character change from Master Blaster, quickly segueing into Oz, and talk a little bit about Vinny Vegas. And we're going to start talking the ins and outs of the business and some heavy-duty shit here. Master Blaster, short-lived. Here comes Oz. I remember seeing the pay-per-view when you debuted. You came out there, I mean, with that outfit on, you was about 8 feet tall, and you had this wicked goddamn mask on. You pulled it off, and you had your eyes wide open, and I was thinking, man, what the fuck is going on here? What were you thinking when you made that debut?
Well, I mean, they didn't see the outfit or nothing until the day of, and they hand me this fucking deal, and it's just like, holy fuck, like another rib. I'm in a lime green outfit with a cape that weighs 200 fucking pounds, and they got I'm not only wearing a dunce cap, but I'm wearing a dunce cap with a rubber mask, and I'm going to pull an old man's face off and be me underneath it. Like, I think maybe Minotaur might have been the only thing that was any worse than that. I mean, just... I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that motherfucking outfit, going, like once again, back then it was, you know how it was, man. Fucking, they didn't want anybody to play. They wanted everybody to quit.
But the rib was, I mean, when you got out on the road, you didn't have like a travel kit and maybe just wear the green shit. It was like a big 5x5 crate. I remember it. It was brutal.
I dragged a fucking, it was a Rubbermaid fucking thing, and I had a fucking padlock on it, and, I mean, the fucking thing must have weighed 75 pounds. That was just my gear, let alone fucking, my clothes and shit. And this weren't wheels on shit back then.
Well, there wasn't wheels back then, and why didn't that invention come around a little bit sooner? Because it could have saved you a ton of goddamn energy. You move from that, you into Vinny Vegas. And I actually enjoyed Vinny Vegas. It was kind of a piece of who and what you are. You're a funny cat,
right.
Take a lot of shit serious, but you don't give a shit about a lot of stuff. Kind of an endearing character. How was your time as Vinny Vegas?
I liked it because, that was the first time that I had any input into what I was going to be. And I got a chance to talk, and I got a chance to be a jack-off, and I got a chance to have some fun. During this time is when, the whole time, Jim Ross was like the only guy that was kind of on my team.
Right.
And Jim was doing a wrestling radio show out of Atlanta. He'd do it on Sundays. And I was like a frequent guest of his because like he was one of the few people that would sit around and actually listen to me and say, well, shit, this guy's smart and he's funny, and I'll put him on the radio. Jim was always an advocate for me. He was the one guy I always had in my corner.
Right.
And which was a good guy to have. And, he's one of the few stand-up fuckers that, in the business, And, you liked it. You liked the character, and so did Shawn Michaels. Michaels, I guess, would saw me a couple times. He called Robbie Steiner, said, do you think Nash can get out of his contract? I'd like to be my bodyguard. Because nobody was selling for Shawn in the WWF. And just jumped to it, man. I got a phone call from Robbie. They were in Green Bay, and he said, hey, can you get out of your contract? I said, fuck yeah, I'll get out of it somehow. And I just drove the next set of TVs. I drove with Wyndham to Dalton TVs and just looked out the window the whole time and didn't say a word, just, tried to do the work. And he bid it and said, man, you're not yourself. What's up? I said, my wife says she's going to leave me if I don't get out of the business. And he said, well, fuck, man, what are you going to do? I said, I got to get out of the business. He said, well, talk to Ole. Went and talked to Ole up at the WCW offices. Already had the offer to come to the WWF. Sat right there. Got a release from my contract from Ole, walked right over, walked to the fax machine, faxed that son of a bitch to Titan Tyler, to JJ, and I was in Albany, Georgia, or Albany, New York 3 nights later, helping Shawn Michaels screw Marty Jannetty to get the Intercontinental belt on Raw the next Monday.
Well, before you left WWF, and that was all on the kayfabe, on the down low, but you and I had started traveling together and struck up a good friendship, and we had some goddamn interesting times on the road. Times were tough back then. We were making decent coin, but we certainly weren't making top dollar. And I just come from, making $15 to $20 a night, down in USWA, hooked up down there. And the deal, when you walked into WCW, you was already making some okay money. But because you and me are the people that we were and still are, we stayed. We made it a point to stay at the biggest shitbox hotels we could find as a rib to ourselves. One time we stayed in a little room, and it was remember that one door that didn't meet at the top? There's about a 2-3 inch gap because the door was too small on the hinges. You remember staying in that summit?
Yeah. We stayed in some. Remember the one place we stayed? It was like I swear it was called the Christmas Tree Inn or something like that. But we always the funny thing was we're notorious that people probably don't realize this, but as a professional wrestler, there's no towels provided. So when you work and you're on the road, you've got to take a hotel from the towel from the hotel every night to have a towel to shower with when you get to the building. Well, all the top guys in WCW had these Marriott towels, and me and Steve would show up with this, threadbare and shit towel that we had stole from some $19 a night motel.
We stayed at the worst hotels we could find, and we rented the shittiest goddamn cars. And I remember at one time we had rented a Chevy Corsica. Now, I'm going to tell the Mazda 929 story in a minute, but we rented a Chevy Corsica, and you was driving. And I didn't hardly let anybody drive me on the road because I just didn't trust anybody, but you were always a goodwill man, still are. And we were coming around a corner in Chattanooga, Tennessee in a Chevy Corsica. And you was kind of hauling ass in that road. It kind of grooved out, and that somebody started skipping around the highway, skipping across the road. And I just looked at you, and I remember saying this damn near verbatim. I said, dude, I think you might have a little bit more confidence in this shit box than I do. I said, why don't you slow the fuck down? You remember that shit?
Oh, fuck. It was white with fucking red interior.
Damn right.
It was
And then after about 6-9 months of that shit, we thought we hit the big time one time, and we made reservations on a Mazda 929. You remember that shit?
Picked that son of a bitch up and budget, and Marietta came out and picked you up. I mean, we were for leather. So I think it was the first time we ever had leather seats.
Like a couple of white pimps driving down. But see, now this is back in the day when the 929 had some fucking stroke, man. If you had a 929, you was semi-big time. But god damn, you remember when we was driving down the road that night, we decided to cut the headlights off? You talking about
first
some
off,
stupid shit.
I mean, there was the beer consumption was pretty amazing between the two of us.
What was that?
I think the deal our beer consumption was pretty amazing. I think the deal was, especially because we used to drive your Civic a lot too.
Yeah, I had a little Honda CRX, that little egg car.
Yeah, a little blue. It was blue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something just sweet. I mean, for just you and I, it was perfect. Our gear was like we got good. Didn't that something? She get like 40 miles to the gallon.
Yeah, it was insane. And then people didn't understand when they saw you walking up to the car that says, no way this big motherfucker's going to get in this car. But what they didn't realize was only a two-seater. You know, you could put that seat way back, and you as comfortable as you would have been in a Mercedes.
Well, I think the deal was that you said when you pay for the gas and I paid for the beer, which was a fucking horrible deal. It's a horrible deal. I got fucked on
that first time I ever got over on you.
We always had a couple of songs that we'd hear on the radio that we'd go buy the cassette and play it over and over a million times in the car. And we for some reason got that damn Janet Jackson cassette we were listening to that night in that 929, and we were listening to one of them songs that some bullshit thing, and we're on a back road somewhere. And we looked at each other, and I don't know who made the decision. We're going to say how far we could drive at about 75 miles an hour with the lights off. Jeez, why? I guess because we're bored. They're out there too long.
I guess if we'd have crashed, your neck wouldn't be hurting right now.
No, hell no. Oh, well, we lived.
But we had some good times, and the thing about being on the road back in, and I hope it's still that way these days, was just the brotherhood aspect. A couple of cats getting in the car, and there was many times if you and me weren't traveling together, you'd get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 motherfuckers in a car or van just because that's what you had to do to make the town because you didn't have any dough. You're splitting all the damn cost of gas and cramming guys in a room. And it was just all such a good time. And, the business was one of the highlights of my life. And to be sitting here talking to you all these years later, and both of us have been out of the business for quite some time, and you're still, casually in it. But to maintain some of the friendships is, obviously an important part of my life. And where we're going to pick up on the next Steve Austin show, we're going to start right with Kevin Nash when he enters WWF as Diesel, running with Shawn Michaels. We're going to talk about him, the Click, the MSG curtain call. Can't forget about that. Guaranteed money down in WCW. How those guys changed the nature of the business. For Kevin Nash, this is Steve Austin on the Steve Austin Show, and I'll catch your ass down the road.
This concludes another PodcastOne.com program.